Quite simple, just need your Scale75 color. Add some water, you can mix it to whatever color you like. Hello, this is BJ from Hearns Hobbies and welcome to another Scale75 tutorial. So I'm going to expand upon the tutorials by moving on to how to make a wash. So the purpose of the tutorials is to show you how versatile these particular paints can be, and just by having a limited number of colors, how you can achieve different finishes. So let's get into making a wash. So what is a wash? Wash is basically a very diluted paint. And the idea of a wash is the paint is diluted to a point so that when you apply it into crevices on your model, it will travel along the crevices and the pigment will concentrate on those and show up the panel lines. Anything that is outside of that, because it's been diluted so far, it won't be as noticeable. So running with those sort of fundamentals, I've got a couple of colors here that we're going to use. So the great thing about mixing your own washes is simply because you don't have a whole range of different washes taking up your bench space, and also it gives you the ability to mix different tones as you go. All right, so let's start off with a darker one, and then I'll mix through some yellow and bring it into a green and show you what that looks like. All right, so let's just open it up, remembering that Scale75 Artist paints are very, very dense, so you're not going to need very much of it, particularly for a wash. Okay, so they come out like a cream, like so. I just get my little container, I'll put the smallest dollop I can on the end, because a lot of this is going to be diluted. Okay, so I've got the smallest dollop. It's probably more than I wanted, but we'll work with that. Okay, so I've got my paint in there. See how thick it is, like a cream. Let's just cap this back on. Now I'm just going to thin it down with water. All right, let's just get a brush and pop some water in here. Now I don't really measure how much water goes in. I just do it by feel. Now let's pour in a bit of this. Okay, so you can see I've got a fair bit in there now. Now the idea is we're just going to mix this down until it gives you this wash effect. Now how do you judge how much to thin down a paint? Well, a wash can be controlled by how thin you make it. Okay, so we could thin this even further and I'll make a very gentle wash, meaning that the amount of pigment that collects within the crevices is going to be less. Okay, so this is just with water mixed, and I'll show you what it's going to look like if you just apply it straight onto the model. Now I've done some of this with a black here before. Now let's apply it here. Now this is going to demonstrate just with water and why only water alone is not going to be suitable. Okay, you see that water in itself has a very high surface tension, and you see how it's not flowing, it's collecting in particular areas, and that's the effect here. So this is a black which I mixed with only water, and you see there's a very uneven finish. Now what we need to do is reduce that surface tension, and to do that you use your common dishwasher detergent, okay, which I have right here. Okay, so it doesn't need to be anything special. This is a clear stuff, but I have used colored stuff before. It makes no real difference. So we're just going to add a drop. Now this also depends on how concentrated your detergent is. Obviously the more concentrated it is, the less you're going to need, and vice versa for less concentrated stuff. Alright, so I've got a bit of detergent in there. Now again we're going to test it to make sure it's got the flow that we want. Now if it doesn't flow as well as we want, then we're just going to add some more detergent. Alright, so this is where we had just the water. Okay, and this is with the detergent. Okay, so you see how it's flowed quite a lot better than just the water alone. You see it's clung onto all these edges here. Now to me, that's good enough to use now. But for example, if you applied that and it was still doing this, was still gathering in corners and not flowing all the way along, then add a little bit more detergent. Okay, so with that in mind, we can just apply just all over. And you'll see that depending on how much you apply, depends on how much gets collected within those crevices. Okay, so we'll just do this. And that's our wash, ready to go. So what I've done here is, you'll see I've got 3 different sections I've painted black earlier, because this will take some time to dry. The great thing about water itself is water takes time to dry, unlike a thinner, and it gives you a lot of working time because it acts like a retarder. So here we have thin with just water. Here we have with some detergent, and here is with more detergent. So you can see the differences with the varying amounts of detergent, how the paint will actually flow, or in this case, we're making a wash. Okay, so it's flowed really well, quite happy with that. That's going to take some time to dry. Now let's move on to the other benefit of doing it this way, is being able to make a different tone on the go. All right, so if we add a little bit of yellow, we're going to be making a green toned wash. Okay, so again, actually I might just apply it onto this brush. Okay, so a little dollop like that. Of course you can apply as much or as little as you want with changing tones, because it all depends on what sort of color you want. So you see how that's already changed. So simply like that, we've made our own different tone of wash. Now this is particularly handy if you're doing a lot of miniatures. Wargaming miniatures like to have really bright colors, and quite often you can't get washes in these particular tones. So it's a lot easier to mix your own. Okay, again, you do exactly the same thing. So just apply it where you want the wash. Now, of course, when the wash dries and it doesn't appear to have enough effect, you can always just apply some more. But that's all collecting in there. And I think that looks pretty good. So if I just coat something a bit more complicated like that, it probably gives you a better impression of what the wash is going to look like. Okay, simple. All right, now what I might do is apply it onto this one as well. This one's got some deep panel lines. A bit easier to see what's happening. So apply here. That. So you see how this one here, the rivet, that's been applied quite heavily, and you see how much deeper that is in color, simply because of the amount of pigment that's going to be there. And then along this panel line here, it's a little bit lighter because there's less. Now what we can do is we'll wait until that dries, and then we can apply extra to make that deeper, or we just leave it the way it is. And then here, where I've overdone a little bit, you just quickly wipe that, and that's clean. Simple. Do another rivet there. Oh, I think I overdid it a bit. Like so. And you see some of these extra details we've got here from our Hearns workshop. You just paint over those with a wash. Like that, quite simple. And there is my little tutorial on how to very quickly and easily make a wash out of the Scale75 paints. So quite simple, just need your Scale75 color. You can mix it to whatever color you like, add some water, and water depends on how deep you want the actual tone, and then you need to add your dishwashing liquid. So dishwashing liquid reduces the tension. So it's a bit like when you put a drop of dishwashing detergent in your washing, you'll see the oil just spread out. Basically, this is doing the same thing. It's reducing the surface tension so that liquid can actually flow within all those tight gaps. So there's the tutorial.